the aspects that the Centre Court MBA Festival has really brought home to me is this fascinating convergence of business and technology. And this next session, I think, really highlights that when you look at a business school that has been around now for what is it, over 110 years. I think the Scheller College of Business at Georgia Tech celebrates 110 years. It's in the heart of Atlanta's Tech Square district. They have this wonderful Jones Career Center that is ranked the #2 in the world by the Financial Times. And guess what? The class of 2022 had a 100% placement record. Where can they go from there? Well, with my guests, we'll be talking about the class of 2023. I'm delighted to welcome Paroma Chakravarti. Paroma is a Cornell grad. She studied environmental engineering and worked on a variety of sustainable green initiatives at a big construction company. Then she was consulting for Palladino. And she did a fascinating internship with Gallo Wines, capturing greenhouse gases to achieve reduction goals. So then she can tell us where she's heading next. We're also joined by Julia Snell. Julia herself, a Scheller, Georgia Tech graduate, the class of 2020, loved it so much, stayed, and here she is now as the Director of MBA Student Services. So all of that experience, Julia, you must have been able to bring into curriculum and so many things that go on. And perhaps we can start there, just giving us that sort of wider sense of the Scheller College of Business within Georgia Tech, you know, the missions, the values of the school. It's got this wonderful reputation. So I'll hand over to you.
Yes, thank you. So yeah, we're from Georgia Tech's Scheller College of Business, which is part, as you mentioned, of Georgia Tech, the greater ecosystem of Georgia Tech. And some of our values around Georgia Tech's values around improving the human condition. And we are also looking to develop our global leaders who support inclusive innovation and are really, you know, trying to kind of push forward more so at the Scheller College of Business with that tech savvy and business smart attitude. And we really are looking forward to seeing where our graduates take us and where they, you know, take the world into a different, better, hopefully, you know, different and better places where we're kind of looking at within Georgia Tech. And like you mentioned earlier too, as well, where we're located in the heart of Midtown Atlanta, at the intersection of business and technology, as we like to say. So right across the street, we have a series of various innovation centers, and Atlanta is actually home to the largest the highest density of companies, incubators, and accelerators in the southeastern United States. So we're in a great spot and a great location here at the Scheller College of Business.
Yeah, and great food too. This is
yes.
Atlanta after all. And perhaps that's something that that Paroma will be talking about in a wonderful profile that Paroma and the rest of the class of 2023 did on Poets and Quants Meet the Class. There was this comment about students that are not satisfied that it is what it is. And Julia, this sense of leading change to make things better, to make the world a better place. That's really something palpable that you witness in your day-to-day at Scheller.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, our student leaders are, Paroma actually is one of them. You'll hear from her a little bit more later, but are really helping us kind of drive the mission forward and really bring in new and creative ideas on a daily basis. We're always hearing about different ways and things that we can improve upon the student experience, or just different ways that we can go out and make an impact in the world.
And in terms of the program itself, Julia, because of course, you know, you have responsibility for the curriculum, a second year that no doubt you can bring in, you know, lots of flexibility, many electives that you can choose. And so tell us about some of those different options and even the guidance that you're then providing to students as they're, you know, dealing with so much choice.
Yeah, so we have we have 13 official concentrations as part of the MBA curriculum, and we're getting ready to add an additional one of those here in the next year. It kind of has to go through the approval process every year, but the concentrations are various. Students can go deep into a very specific functional area, such as marketing, or they can go with breadth, which is around like sustainability, or we have a product and service innovation concentration. So various different concentrations are out there and available for our students to choose from. And the concentrations are actually only 4 of the elective classes that they have to take. So that means that there's still a lot more flexibility for our students to take whatever classes they're interested in. So we really want to make sure that students are having the opportunity to take classes that they are really most interested in, and that both best fit their needs for their future career aspirations.
Paroma, you were already enjoying a successful career, helping companies to reach their certification goals and being a lot more greener and higher levels of sustainability. So what was your thinking? And also, of course, you have to explain, where were you going to put all of these 20 plus cats and dogs that you had fostered over many years if you were heading to the Scheller School for 2 years of an MBA?
Luckily, most of them were adopted. I only foster failed, as they call it, with one of them, and he's asleep right next to me. So that's it. But yeah, my path to Scheller was pretty interesting. I'm from Atlanta, so I had been in and around Georgia Tech all my life. I spent a lot of summers going to summer camp here. But as a lot of kids who grew up here, like, I need to get as far away as possible. So when I was looking at business school, quite honestly, I was like, well, I don't know if I want to move back to Georgia Tech after living in DC for 5 years. But I did the Forte pre-MBA launch program just to explore, make sure as an engineering background, I really knew what I was getting into with business school, and also to understand what my priorities would be when picking a business school. And it quickly was evident to me that because I'm pivoting from the green building world, which is a very niche world, into operations and supply chain, I needed that curriculum support. I needed to get some experience in a kind of fail early, fail safely environment before going into that industry. And I also wanted a culture that was supportive when I did make mistakes and didn't feel competitive, so that it was that safe place to kind of ask my dumb questions like, what is a tea table in accounting class? So when I was comparing schools, I actually met Georgia Tech at the MBA tour and kind of got to know the admissions folks. I did a campus visit and sat in on a supply chain lecture and got to know a lot of the class, I think, of 2020, because this was literally February 2020 before everything shut down. And I loved it. And it was that curriculum and the practicums that kind of expose you to real world clients, so you can see what the work you would be doing once you graduate. But then there's also that support of the professor and alumni to help you, like, hey, by the way, your presentation could use a little bit more of quantitative analytics, and here's how you can do it, before I'm out as a supply chain consultant and have to be the expert, right? And the other part was the class of 2020 and the 2021 class, so supportive. Immediately connected with them, have a similar sense of humor, really loved all the events that they were all like, yeah, we're going to a happy hour right after class if you want to come. I was like, I have to hop on a plane, but thank you so much. So those are like the main elements that really drew me to Scheller and have made that experience so much fun while being here.
So there's that sort of high level, and I have to admit, if somebody asked me to come up with a tea table, I'd probably start moving furniture around. But so there was that instant chemistry. And as you then dig deeper, and maybe there was even a spreadsheet or a matrix that was at work here, were there other elements where it felt that everything would fit in place? I mean, I mentioned earlier the Career Center, which has this phenomenal record.
Yeah, specifically with the Career Center, because I was making a pivot, I knew that I needed a lot of guidance. And I knew that coming to Scheller, you have a dedicated career counselor who, even before the program started, Kevin, who's my career coach, reached out to me, helped me put a resume together, helped me put together a personal statement. If I, met an executive in an elevator, what would I say? Which I had never done before, because as an engineer, you don't really get that kind of prep all the time. So when I was picking, that was very important. Know that I would have kind of a structure of development in my career search and have that point person who always has time to talk me through everything. During the second year, fall is when I decided I wanted to re-recruit, love my time at Gala, like you mentioned, but wanted to go a little bit different direction. I remember walking into Kevin's office and saying, hey, Kevin, so, last year when I avoided everything with consulting, I've decided now I would like to try it. And by the way, deadlines are coming up. Can you help? I was mid-panic, but Kevin was not. He's a professional and was very supportive, immediately helped me hit the ground to figure out how best to position myself to apply for these companies, and met with me pretty much I think we met like a couple times a week up until my interviews just to prep and make sure I was feeling confident and not nervous about it. So that career support has been amazing. I don't know if I knew that was the level of support I would get at Scheller, but I had a feeling.
Right. And just, I mean, your grads head to Apple, they head to Bain, they head to Amazon, Bank of America, Nike, the list goes on. In your case, you've secured a position to join McKinsey in the summer. So you nailed that interview and everything that followed in that entire process. Now, you know, there are classes, all of this career support. You're the class president for the class of 2023. So how do you manage course load with everything else? And perhaps you can give us a sense of, you know, the clubs and the activities. How do you prioritize with all of these different opportunities?
That's a very good question. It's always a work in progress of making sure that anything I commit to, I follow through on and am accountable for. But like I said, the community at Scheller is incredible. So, you know, every other week, our graduate business council, which is our student body governance, basically meets with program office. There were many weeks where I had interviews at that time. So I work on a team. Everything we do at Scheller is team-based. My vice president stepped up and really communicated whatever we need to communicate. So anything that we need support on, there's usually a support person available to step in until I can come back and take on that responsibility. As far as course load, Scheller really does a lot. Julia and Katie in the program office do a lot to help us bring like our connections and build a really strong network within Scheller. So during orientation, I think I met every single person in my class by the end of 2 weeks, to the point where I had to sit quietly in my apartment and recharge because it was just so much socializing. And I say that because your first semester, you're put on a core team. So there's usually 4 to 5 people on this team, totally different backgrounds, usually very complementary backgrounds. So I had an HR person on my team. I had an MD, MBA on my team. So brought a totally different perspective to business cases. And I had someone who worked in finance, which is the class I was most afraid of. So, and this core team follows you through your entire core semester. You take all your classes together. All of your projects are done together, so that if you are struggling, if you personally don't understand the econ question set, usually there's someone on your team that either can help you understand what's going on or has the capacity to go to office hours to ask your groups questions. So that's the kind of like balance you get, as you build this network to be able to know who you can ask for help, and that help will be there.
Right.
So I can't do all the things.
Paroma makes it sound so easy, Julia, but with your colleagues, you know, all of this, making that mix and match, and how that brings the best out of everyone and challenges them in different ways. Tell us a little bit about Scheller within the wider context of Georgia Tech, because again, opportunities to then tap into extraordinary resources and connections within the wider institution.
Yeah, very much. So I was going to talk about our Tiger program, I think is a good example of kind of our interaction with Georgia Tech as a whole, but also kind of the overall Tech Square ecosystem and startup culture and community. Our Tiger program, traditionally it paired a Georgia Tech PhD student with actually an Emory law student from, you know, across town, the other university in Atlanta, and MBA students. And they work together on a project trying to bring that the PhD student's idea to market. They have the opportunity that, you know, to go through different iterations, you know, 6-week sprints, decide if they want to stick with it or change into a different program or project through, like, there's like also the creative destruction lab as well within Georgia Tech and Scheller College of Business. So there's the opportunity to kind of go across campus in that regard. But I also say, like, if you want to look at just like overall traditions, our MBA students do get involved in a lot of our Georgia Tech traditions, such as, you know, are the football games and the tailgates and other opportunities like that. So it's a great opportunity to be as part of the overall Georgia Tech brand here at the Scheller College of Business.
Yeah, and a very, very vibrant community. Paroma had given the example of, you know, having an MD in that small, tight group, and then you know, people with finance backgrounds, all of these different experiences that they then bring. You also head up the Charge Leadership Development program, and this emphasis on leadership, perhaps for individuals that haven't had that exposure. Tell us a little bit about the sort of focus and objectives of the program.
Yeah, so our Charge Leadership Development Program is an opportunity for our students to hone in and develop their leadership skills. And we have it based around 4 different leadership competencies, which are communications, impact and influence, team efficacy, and social intelligence. And so we actually start that process at orientation. We have at least one of those competencies. There's an activity or event during the orientation week that Paroma referenced earlier. And students have the opportunity to go through all of that. And then throughout the semester and even going into the second semester, we continue to have opportunities where we host events or speakers or workshops around all of that. But there's also the individual development students have the opportunity to. So we have an application where we have activities that they can track and go through on their own. So kind of is really, it's self-driven and it's self-motivated, but it's highly encouraged as a way to kind of develop those skills that are not necessarily learned in the classroom, that are needed, outside of the classroom and into that next kind of helping students when they're transitioning from an MBA student into the corporate world or whatever, their post-MBA jobs, to kind of help fill those gaps.
Right. You have both been a student of Scheller, graduating 3 years ago, and obviously now as part of the leadership team. What advice do you have for our viewers? For people that are thinking about business school, they're looking for that right fit. There was a wonderful immediate chemistry that Paroma picked up on, that, juggling their interests, their next career steps, and finding the right program. What advice do you give them?
Yeah, I think my biggest piece of advice is to talk with some of our current students, because they have the best, they're in the thick of it right now, and they have an understanding of what's going on, and they know why they chose this program and where it's going to take them. We have an opportunity for the students to interact with the prospective students through our admissions ambassadors program. We also have alumni ambassadors, and all of their contact information is listed on our website. So I really encourage any prospective student to do outreach to our alumni to kind of get an idea from them as like what they liked about the Scheller College of Business, where it took them, and what advice that they would give to someone interested in pursuing an MBA program.
Paroma, we commented that the last 20 months have flown by. It must be hard to imagine that you're approaching graduation this summer. As you look back, both in the classroom, all of the clubs and experiences that you've had, 3 things, perhaps even unexpected things, that have really, left an impression on you, and that you're going to take away with you.
Definitely the in-classroom experience of, we have a lot of discussion-based classes. So for example, in law and ethics, an area that I haven't really spent a lot of time thinking about, it has been fascinating to hear people from all these different experiences, from the military, from finance world, from the HR world, from hospitality, give their perspectives on questions that I was like, this is black and white. And then I come out the other end of the class and I'm like, I don't know what I think about this anymore. And I reflect on that a lot, because that's the reason I came to business school, is to kind of open up past the experience I've had and think more deeply about things I've never been exposed to before. So that's that curriculum, like in-class experience. Like I mentioned, the career support, I'm actually like trying to brainstorm how to thank career services, because they were so supportive even when I was a stress ball and walked in there and just needed like support without advice, if that makes sense. And they're experts at knowing when and how to do that. And they check in on you. They used to email me all the time. Hey, did you sign up for this event? It seems like it'd be a good fit for you, outside of our normal advising hours. That support is unbelievable. But I wanted to tell the story about Consulting Club, because the leadership there and the way that's structured, I was blown away by the amount of support they gave me while prepping for the McKinsey interview. So like I said, I decided a little bit later than most people should that the world of consulting was interesting and something I'm passionate about. When I made that decision, the Leadership and Consulting Club immediately basically put me on a practice regime for case interviews, where for 2 weeks, they would wake up with me at like 8 a.m. and we would do 4 to 5 cases every single day leading up to my first round. And there was feedback. They're like, you need to work on this specific type of math because you're always thrown off by decimals. They're difficult. I maintain that. And it was just so supportive without any like direct gain to my classmates. I where in the, Scheller brochure do you read that they're going to do this for you? That was 2 weeks of classmate time that they dedicated for my success. And so that's been like a huge, really positive and warm memory that I'm kind of taking through graduation.
And I'm sure that support is not just for that first position that you've landed at McKinsey, but the second and the next steps of your career.
Yes.
So have you already thought about how you would like to give back as a future ambassador of the Scheller MBA?
I don't think they're going to be able to get rid of me. I think that might be a problem. My office is really close to the Scheller building because it's right in the middle. But I've thought about it because I still reach out to the class that graduated ahead of us. The former president of GBC lives just down the street, and we get dinner whenever she's not traveling for work, right? So I think there's formal ways I want to give back as an alumni ambassador. If there's any panels that they want me to talk on, even though obviously I talk a lot, might be a problem, we'll see. Or in informal ways of just making sure the next graduate business council knows they can reach out to me when they have a situation they just want some perspective on or context on. So that's really what I'm thinking about right now. I'm trying not to be just living at Scheller for 2 more years. So we'll see.
Well, the thing about Zoom panels is that if people don't talk, they really don't go anywhere. So don't worry about communicating. It's wonderful to have all of this experience and insight that you're sharing. Perhaps my last question for you, Paroma, is again more insight for our viewers who themselves perhaps thinking of taking the step that you started to consider 3 years ago. And of course, you've had this extraordinary experience. Often it comes down to, well, what's the ROI of the program, post-MBA salaries. Can you broaden that, as with everything that you've experienced? Yes, you've landed a fantastic position and the numbers are all going to work out, but perhaps other aspects of the return on an investment that you've made of your time that just continue to reward you, and you say, wow, where else could I get this sort of experience?
Absolutely. So I think because we have such deep connections at Scheller, yesterday at our favorite bar restaurant's 15th year anniversary, we basically planned the Scheller MBA tour, which is where everyone who's moving to a different city is going to host us for a weekend while we go and visit them. Because a lot of us are staying in Atlanta, but a lot of us are leaving to cities that across the country. And so when we think about ROI, now I have a place to stay wherever I want. No, just part of it is being able to have connections in communities that perhaps I had not had any connection to before coming to the program, just because we get hired into so many different industries and so many different types of companies. And that is something I would not have been able to do if I had not made that decision to come here a couple of years ago. The other less tangible part is what I mentioned about learning how to think more deeply about things that seem black and white. Because as an engineer, thinking about business school is like, oh, well, if it's profitable, you do it. And through my practicum experience, talking to some clients just in that situation, and then class discussion, there's a lot of other aspects that go into making a business decision other than if it's just profitable. And there's that sustainability aspect of people, planet, profit, of course, but there's also what does this mean for the long-term strategic plan for this company? If I hadn't chosen business school, if I hadn't shown the classroom experience that Scheller offers, I think I still would have been like, oh, well, businesses always do things because it's more profitable than anything else. So that deeper thinking, that strategic thinking is huge, and it's really opened up my world when I kind of see headlines or any sort of company news now.
Yeah. So Julia, a final word, and you've spoken about the importance of talking to students, talking to alums. Your colleagues offer info sessions, and you tour and you travel to meet that next generation of applicants. So I want to bring all of that together. And conscious that you are both a graduate of the program and have this leadership position, just the aspect of Scheller, as you walk through the corridors and just get this thrill, what do you love about the place, just at a very human, simple level?
The people. It really is. It comes down to the people. I really do enjoy getting to know everyone. I think everyone sometimes asks about what's your favorite Scheller tradition? And for me, it's kind of going to sound, I don't know, different, but orientation. I love orientation because it's a fresh new batch of students every year, and they're coming with, fresh perspectives. And by the end of those 2 weeks, you know every single person's name and you know a little bit more about them. And so just like the fresh energy and their new ideas, it just always kind of, keeps you excited about coming into work every day because of their interactions that you may have on any given day. Every day is different, and then that's what makes it such a special place.
Well, thank you, both of you, because if viewers are making a sort of a pros and a cons list, that pros list is going to be a lot longer. But sometimes we make very binary decisions, or just driven by the sort of the calculations and the money. And I think what both of you have brought up is that when you bring in that human aspect, humans are not binary, we're very complex, but get the right chemistry, get the right mix, and both of you have spoken to that, then it produces something quite magical, and clearly from your shared experiences. So thank you for being able to capture that and share that with our viewers at Centre Court. We'd love to be able to share this sort of insight and excitement. It was lovely to spend the last 25 minutes talking with both of you. Good luck for the summer in your new position, Paroma and Julia. Enjoy the Centre Court viewers. They're going to be reaching out and wanting to connect for next year.
Yes, can't wait.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.